that song, "The Rockies May Crumble, They're Only Made of My Love Is Here to Stay," because there was this great story this week that the Alps may crumble. The Alps! This is what we're facing. Well, everybody, while everybody is carrying on about, all this stupid stuff, about whether Bill and Hillary deserve, Secret Service protection. There's real stuff going on, such as that the Alps may crumble. And this is not like some bozo story. This is from the London Telegraph. Permafrost. Now, for some reason, that sounds to me like, I don't know, that fake AstroTurf. I don't know why. But permafrost is what holds Europe's highest mountain ranges together. It's like a real thing. I guess if we looked at permafrost, we'd say, oh, ice, but it's permafrost. It is melting. The permafrost that is holding the Alps together is melting. I felt it! Yes, I'm the Wicked Witch of the West. Threatening to deluge ski resorts and alpine settlements with lethal mudslides and rockfalls. They're head of a team of scientists who has been monitoring the melting of the permafrost in Europe's alpine regions, says that the Swiss Alps had warmed by 0.5 degree centigrade to 1 degree centigrade over the past 15 years. Now, I'm one of those people, I believe in global warming. Even though it's about to snow again tomorrow. Because, of course, global warming, only to ignorant people, does it mean it just keeps getting warmer and warmer? What global warming does is it makes the weather very weird and erratic, which it certainly is. So they have been monitoring, I don't know, they've made boreholes in mountain ranges, and they've calculated that in the last century, the temperatures in the rock and mud in the Alps have increased by 1 centigrade to 2 centigrade. And, what can I tell you? The top meter of ground will thaw in the summer, but then where the permafrost begins to melt, the whole underpinning of the ground just starts falling apart, and everything just starts falling down. And there you go. And where are going to be your ski vacations? Where are all those rich people going to go to ski in the winter? But that doesn't bother anybody because, it's so much more interesting to just endlessly trash Bill and Hillary Clinton, because that's what we've gotten used to, and it certainly doesn't take any thought. It doesn't take any exercise of the intellect to keep saying the same things over and over for 8 years, Take a new thought in, oh my God, somebody ought to bore something through people's heads so a new thought might get into somebody's mind. And Wired magazine, the February issue, which is coming out January 11th, which has always driven me insane. I subscribe to so many magazines, and already the February ones are coming. They're always ahead. It's when it's nice? It's nice in April, which is never as warm and nice as we think it's going to be. When you start getting the May magazines. And spring sort of arrives in your mailbox before it arrives in real life. That's kind of nice. But what isn't nice is in October, which is usually a pretty nice month, and suddenly at the beginning of October, what are all the magazines are into Thanksgiving and Christmas already? But Wired, which will be on the stands January 11th, which is what, I guess next Friday, human cloning is within reach. They can do it. Now, we first heard about cloning, it was only 4 years ago. Dolly the Lamb, remember that? 1997. The technology exists to clone a human. And Wired magazine, in this article, I guess it'll be online too, says that they think that probably, since the technology exists, somebody right this minute is cloning a human being. And if they're not doing it right now, they're just getting ready. They're just, they're going to have a little ice cream, a cup of coffee, and they'll be cloning a human being right after that. So there we go. Now, the guy who wrote this article, Brian Alexander, doesn't think there are going to be armies of clones created. What is the science fiction vision? Nobody wants to do the really low-level jobs. Nobody wants to clean toilets. I guess people don't like working on assembly lines. And you could just create all these clones to do all the low-level jobs that nobody wants to do. But he doesn't think this is going to happen because he claims, now I don't know how true this is, you could clone Michael Jordan and you would get tall people, but that doesn't mean they would either like basketball or even be able to play basketball. But how can that be true? If you cloned Michael Jordan, wouldn't everything that makes him Michael Jordan be there? His ability and desire to play basketball? I don't know how this guy can say that you wouldn't be creating these carbon copies. Now, this article that's coming out in Wired, he thinks that the first human clone is going to remain a secret. So I guess that means like 20 years, 15 years, I don't know. You can look around in a while and look at a kid and say, Kid A, the first human clone? It's very creepy. There was that story in the Post last week, which I think I already threw out. This cult that believes aliens cloned human, I don't know, somewhere. They're about to clone a dead baby. There's a couple whose baby died. And I don't know what they saved from the baby. They saved something, cells, hair, skin, something. And this weird cult is going to clone the baby for them for a lot of money to bring their child back. Here, he interviewed, there's a molecular biologist whose son died, and he kept some tissues from the body. And this guy is planning on cloning his son. Now, of course, I always imagine that clones just appear. But no, what you have to do, okay, is get eggs from an anonymous donor, from a donor. You have to get some lady's eggs. Then you inject these cells from the person you want to clone into the egg. And you get embryos. Then you take this is not so simple, Then you take the embryos and implant them in surrogate mothers. Now, this guy is planning to implant the embryos into 5 to 10 surrogate mothers in hopes that one of the eggs will develop into a clone of his son. Does this creep you out or what? This, totally is creeping me out. Japan and some of the European countries have banned human cloning. here it is. Here is the thing about the sect, this crazy group. The American couple is going to pay $500,000 to clone their dead baby. So, conceivably, you could do this tomorrow. I mean, you couldn't do it, and I couldn't do it, but people could do it. And like everything else, you see, he points out, this is always so interesting to me, things that seem so bizarre, when they come into being, clones. Wait 20 years, and you'll say, oh, hi, here's my clone. Everything on the fringe, I've talked about this for like 20 years already. Everything that starts out on the fringe ends up in the mainstream. It just becomes absorbed. Partly because of the media, the incredible mass media that we have. If you see enough stories about something, it begins to seem commonplace. It is. If you see it on television 1,000,000 times, well, then it just begins to seem natural. But I think there's something wrong with it. I can't quite put my finger on what's wrong with it, but there's something wrong with this. There is just something. It is man taking on the position of God. Man is just turning himself out. Now, I know that they say in here, test 2 babies, which is in vitro fertilization, I guess. No, or they grow them totally. That still creeps me out. Has it ever occurred to anybody that if a couple can't have a baby, that maybe there is some higher biological reason? Maybe there's a reason why people are infertile? Maybe there's, like a reason in God's mind why some people are infertile? I don't like this idea. I mean, and there's all this other stuff I was talking about last week, the pig's hearts and people. And the story also from last week, how they can create sperm in a laboratory. Although I'll tell you, this is going to serve one great purpose. You know how more and more these days, it seems to me, you meet people and you just look at them and you say, they're not like real human beings. There are just more and more people that seem to have no hearts and no souls. So maybe after they clone people, I don't know, they clone people, do clones have souls? I don't know. It's a very big question, but it's certainly a more interesting question, than all this Linda Chavez and her illegal aliens. All right, we're going to take a break. I'm Lynn Samuels, News Talk Radio 77 WABC. Hey, I'm back, Lynn Samuels, here till 9:30, when Matt Drudge will be here until midnight for the 6 best hours of radio in the history of the universe. Now, you could clone me. You could clone Drudge. That would be good, but, they'd probably be cloning the wrong people, as far as I'm concerned. Now, here's a question. Bill Clinton couldn't run for president for a 3rd term, but say there were a clone of Bill Clinton. Could the clone run for president? That's something to think about. Hi, Nat. Hello, Nat. Nat, I can hear you breathing, so answer me or not. All right. Just see, everything is just working beautifully, as usual here. Hi, Dorothy.
Hi, I'm not a clone, I'm a drone.
Okay.
I wonder if you can guarantee chromosomes when you clone things.
Well, it comes out, it's exactly the same.
I don't know.
You see, I imagine them as like coming out fully grown. The thing is, when you clone somebody, it's born as a brand new baby, and, it grows up.
Yeah, there's got to be some missing link there somewhere.
Why?
You mentioned soul. Soul is like a state of mind that permeates your entire being and becomes spirit, leading to spirituality, and then you can repeat the same thing over and over again. It's like on a loop. I don't know where soul comes from, but I think it was last week when you were saying something about eugenics. We were talking about this, getting into philosophy of like all this kinds of stuff. With these experiments, they've experimented with. The Germans with diseases, and we did it here too, with LSD. The CIA did it here with mind control, all kinds of stuff. Well, that's not all the same. I mean, you're mixing up like 5 and 6 different things. Mm-hmm. I mean, LSD, yes, they did. The CIA did experiment, but it's not the same thing as cloning or eugenics. But it all presents ethical questions that nobody seems to want to address. Again, you have all the scientists, and they just say, oh, we can do this. Let's do it. And not even think about it. Hello?
Oh, hi. I don't know why these names are from the old callers. I don't know what's going on. Who's this?
Hello?
Yes, who is this?
Oh, my God. Is this Lynn Samuels?
Yes, it is. You need to turn your radio down.
Okay. Oh, my God. You mean this is a recorded show? Hello?
No, you need to turn your Crash, you want to take her and...
No, my radio isn't on.
Well, then why would you think you're calling me and it's a recorded show?
I don't know. Why are you answering the phone if you're on the radio?
All right, thank you very much. I just don't understand what the use is. I really don't. Hi, Andrew. You're on WABC with Lynn.
Yes, Lynn. I just have... I have noticed, I don't know if you've noticed it, but I've noticed in listening to a lot of these Sinatra-based radio programs that the hosts there, they often display a sense of pseudo familiarity. And you ever listen to it, then they'll say something like...
Why don't you call Mark Simone and complain to him? Why are you bothering me? The Sinatra show is on Saturday, so call and complain to him. Terry, hi, you're on WABC with Lynn.
Hi, Lynn. I was just wondering, like the food for the people who are, with the fuel bills and everything, I think that, there should be something like food banks and stuff.
Yeah, that's a very good idea. I think that's just a wonderful idea. The number is 1-800-848-WABC. Hi, Fred.
Hi. I think somebody's going to invent like a turkey machine and then like a turkey fighters and fix it and really won't be safe. One thing leads to another. Now, about the movie The Boys from Brazil, do you recall it? I didn't like the ending where
Do you think that there's an ethical element in recreating people? I mean, you're trying to be a smartass, but do you think that there is something different from a Xerox machine to taking people and cloning them and recreating them, or you think it's just the same thing?
It's different.
All right, so why are you trying to be a smartass?
I was just trying to make a joke. Please excuse me. But about the movie The Boys from Brazil,
yes.
Do you recall the ending where he just lets the little boy who was Hitler's son, go free? He didn't have the heart to kill him.
Yeah, well, I always thought they were going to make a sequel, I mean, that was wasn't it kind of the setup to make Boys from Brazil, too?
But not with Gregory Peck, I hope. He was so miscast. He's such a nice person.
I'll tell you, I haven't seen that movie in so long. I only remember the bare outline. I certainly don't remember the performances.
Can I bring up something from the past that I have a question about?
Sure.
When Jimmy Carter was sending those helicopters to rescue the hostages, was it in Iran? And then two of them didn't, they got destroyed somehow?
They got stuck in the sand, which is something they should have known was going to happen.
Yeah, but what was the ultimate plan? Did he really have some plan that when they reached the hostages, somehow they would be able to free them without harming them? Did anybody ever find out what was his ultimate plan?
I'm sure somebody did. That goes back so long. I assume that was the idea, that they were going to storm wherever they were. And they would rescue them.
But wouldn't the kidnappers, immediately kill the hostages?
probably, but people, sometimes stuff like that works. You remember the the raid on Entebbe?
Yes, I remember.
Sometimes that stuff works. When he wanted to end it. Maybe had that worked, he would have been reelected president, when we would have had a whole different history in the United States.
One more thing. How do you feel about actresses and singers using titles as part of their name, like Queen Latifah? I mean, she never earned being a queen.
Oh, my God. I think that probably is one of the biggest problems.
I do, too.
Facing us today. Frankly, we should forget the cloning. We should forget the illegitimate presidency of George W. Bush, and we should just concentrate on Queen Latifah and Prince.
Yeah, but wait, he didn't adopt the name President Bush. He earned it. His first name was George. It's a different story.
If she wants to call herself Queen Latifah, what does it bother you?
I resent it.
You resent it. Why do you resent it?
Because she never earned the title. She's not married to a king. She's not royalty.
This is what you spend your time thinking about?
For most of my time, yes.
Thinking about Queen Latifah. Who else besides Queen Latifah?
Well, like you say, Prince. And who made Elvis the king? I didn't vote. I never got to vote.
All right, thank you so much for this call. My mouth is open. I just can't believe this. I am just, my mind boggles. Hello, Molly.
Oh, my God.
Well, I mean, we need to address that. I mean, maybe we could call Congress into special session
Wait,
to, send out a notice to Queen Latifah to cut it out.
First of all, you couldn't get the same people as clones unless they were brought up in the exact same atmosphere.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that does leave out the old nature or nurture.
However, and, you would have to have, like, if they wanted to make another you, there would have to be someone who had two parents that were teachers. I mean, you're going to be brought up a lot different than somebody who just has cowpokes in the family, But anyway.
Oh, I always wanted to be a cowpoke.
Yeah. I always liked those fringe things. Leather jackets and... anyway, I have 3 predictions.
Uh-oh.
No, they're good.
Yeah, but you might know something. You might actually know what you're talking about.
That's why I'm telling you.
Okay.
And first of all, the mere thought that Bush might be president sent the market plunging. It had nothing to do with it anyway. The first prediction is that in 4 days after Bush is in, Bill's approval rating is going to go to 98%.
Oh, that I wouldn't doubt at all.
And then I believe that in 4 years, he will return.
But he can't. He's not according to the Constitution.
Yes, it's 3 consecutive terms.
No, it isn't. You're wrong.
Really?
It's not. Mayor Giuliani can come back. That's it, because in the New York City thing, it's 3 consecutive, which means he can take off 4 years and come back to president. It's not, it doesn't say consecutive. It says he may not serve more than 2 terms. So Bill can't come back. So there goes that prediction.
All right, well, here's the last one, and this one is great. And remember who told you this. The first woman president is going to be Kathleen Townsend. Kathleen Kennedy Townsend.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. I remember that.
You heard it here first.
Do we know what year?
We don't. But really, the month of St. James Browning, I screamed at God, how could you do this to them again? And I think he could tell that I was I was really judging him, and I was really pissed, and this is the kind of thing that could turn me off.
So now he's going to make her the president just to get you back to believe in God again?
No. No, that's why he answered me at the time. He said, and I felt it like booming through my body. It's an unbelievable thing, but the voice just said, otherwise Kathleen Kennedy Townsend couldn't be president.
All right, well, we can only wait and see, Molly. But
absolutely.
When it happens, I'll think of you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
And, of course, Molly will call up and say, remember, in 2001 in January, I told you, and I will remember. Crash, did we achieve our goal in the other room? Okay. So hard to be a big radio star and a producer at the same time. I'm multitasking. And I forgot what button I pushed. Number 4, Rich, hi. Rich! Here, what's the rest of this radio blasting? Well, Rich, who apparently left the room and everything. Okay, lost your turn. Hi, Ken.
Hey, Lynn, I'll give you one good example why you don't need to keep fertilizing people to have children. Has anybody ever heard...
there's too many people.
Well, no. First of all, has anybody ever heard of adopting all the unwanted children in the world?
Well, nobody wants them.
Well, that's the whole problem. It's a fact thing, and that's why the problems are
where is your radio? Would somebody where is everybody's radio on?
My radio's not on. Hello?
Look, when I hear my voice speeding back to me, it was on. You just turned it off.
I turned it down a little bit more. It was on anyway.
Yeah, well...
Anyway, when a child of 5 years old can say they're over the hill, you know it's a sad state for people to say they don't want a child 5 years old.
I'll tell you something. It's more than that. People have got an urge that is a mystery to me to give birth to their own children, to carry on. It must be some biological urge.
Well, everybody wants to have something of themselves to leave as a legacy. But people have to realize if you can't give birth naturally, what are you doing when you feed in all this different medication into people? You're talking about cloning? Basically, we've been cloning for years. Just your babies are nothing more than a clone, if you think about it.
Well, there's something, but I don't believe in all that stuff. I really don't. I don't think people should do it. I agree with you. But, then you have the other problem besides this biological urge that seems to have bypassed me to reproduce oneself exactly, that if you look worldwide and even in this country, most of the children that need to be adopted are children of color.
That's right.
And you run into the problem.
Origin. Most people, they want the perfect little white baby, and they forget a black child, a Haitian child, a Indian child. Any child should be a blessing to you if you can't have your own child. No, but there's another problem.
There are the black social workers and the movement where minority people don't want white people to adopt children of color.
Well,
it goes both ways now. There are always these cases where they say a white family is not capable of raising a black child to be a black person of self-respect.
Well, Lynn, you're a person of the radio, so you should be starting to tell these people, look, there's enough multiracial marriages that are working very, very well where there may be a white wife or a black wife, whatever, and they bring up their children to be very, very educated in a black society as well as a red society. They usually bring up their children much more better off than most children that would be brought up in the ghettos. They're much more...
You're working off a stereotype, and thank you for the call. And, I just read a review of a book. Alice Walker was married to a white Jewish man, and she had a daughter. And the daughter, now don't ask me the name of this book, the name of the author, I don't remember. I don't even remember. I glanced at this somewhere. And she's 31 years old, and she just wrote a book about what it was like growing up. She lived partly with her mother and partly with her father. So this woman, who I guess you call a mulatto, grew up in a white household and a black household. And it's difficult for people, but the thing that I find most interesting is this urge that people have to go through, to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and to go through these machinations that I don't think can be healthy for the woman. so that she can conceive, so that people can carry on their own gene. I mean, the whole idea of having children is it's a mystery to me. And as to why people would go through all of this, it just remains, and will always remain, a total mystery to me. All right, why don't we go to the sports, take this break here, Peter Schwartz. I'm Lynn Samuels, News Talk Radio 77, WABC.
Thanks, Lynn. The sports report is brought to you by the American Stock Exchange.
We have some big story up. Just a minute. Let's turn this on. Let's turn that on and see what's cooking on Drudge. I can't have everything on one computer. These are... No, dollars for Hillary, Issakoff. No, all right. We'll see what he's got cooking at 9:30. All right, now we're back to the other one. Let's just see how many microphones we can turn on at the same time in this room. Bob, you're on WABC with Lynn.
Hello? Lynn?
Yes, Bob.
Yes, okay, you didn't say Bob. I didn't know it was me. Okay, but now I do. Anyway, I was like wanting to talk about the cloning, and I thought that your idea, I mean, it was good to hear your explanation of the cloning because I've never really heard, I mean, it made sense and it was good, and...
Well, I was reading it from the United Press International.
Well, you know, the one thing that I was thinking, it led me to think, I was thinking about cloning, and the thing about the lamb that they cloned or something, whatever it was, they cloned it from an adult, whatever
sheep
animal, and so that the clone actually had adult tissue, which that would, which is kind of,
And I remember them saying at some point that cloned lamb was aging at a much faster rate than a regular little lamb would be aging. But that was 3 years ago. So.
Yeah, your explanation, though, I mean, like, for me anyway, it helped me to, like...
Well, it helped me. It's gonna be in Wired magazine, which comes out January 11th, which I guess is Friday.
Unfortunately, I never read anything, but...
Oh, all right.
But, the other thing I was saying, like, the science, I think, like, anything that happens in science fiction will come true, now. And... that's why you can't stop cloning because it's going to happen, but I think it will take a while because I think, like, the problems that, say, the females would have to, the chances of having problems and, would be immense, and I can't imagine a woman...
No, I don't think so, because there are women now that can carry other women's babies.
Yeah, but you're talking about a clone, which is, like, something that's never been done before.
Well, but look, all it is, ultimately, it's an embryo being implanted in some other woman's uterus, which they do all the time anyway. I mean, I don't know...
Would you do something like that?
I wouldn't have a child. I mean, I'm too old now.
Have the first time,
Thank God I'm too old, and no, I would not. I'm not a guinea pig. I wouldn't be a guinea pig. I could have had that eye surgery, the cure.
I'm glad you didn't do that.
I could have had that for nothing. Because we have sponsors. We've had different sponsors, and they say, you can have it done, and I'm not, no, excuse me, no thank you.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people having, like, they can't see anymore, or they only see half as much as they did before.
I'm just not into having people mess around with my body, unless, if you have a heart attack, you have cancer, or something like that, fine, then you do it, but you're not for vanity or something. Believe me, if I was into that and I had the money, honey, I'd be lipo-sucked. I'd have my face yanked up. I'd have my upper arms tightened so I could wear sleeveless tops. I'd have my thighs made so, oh, God, I look at my body. And even I, not a plastic surgeon, I could see, like, I don't know, about $100,000 worth of work right there. But no. Much as I would love to wear sleeveless, I have this obsession about my upper arms being so flabby and flappy, and which runs in my family. That's in my genes. You made a clone of me and we'd get to be 58, and its upper arms would be flapping around. And my clone couldn't wear sleeveless tops either. Very frustrating. Not me. Hi, Pat.
Hi, Lynn. I love your show.
Thank you.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever, I have two other questions, but real quick about cloning, but have you ever considered being a stand-up comedian?
No, because I'm very nervous. I can't do anything in front of living people. It makes me too nervous.
Really?
Yeah. I can only do it all alone in this room.
Well, you're doing a good job. I'm dying laughing with some of the people who call in. Anyway, I wanted to ask if you remember, didn't President Clinton once pass some kind of a bill or a law about human cloning not happening in the United States?
Well, I thought maybe we had, but according to this article, we have never passed a law against it. I think that there are people trying this stem cell research, which is related to cloning.
Mm-hmm.
So there are all these things. I can't quite keep up with all the permutations, but apparently Japan recently outlawed human cloning, but apparently we haven't.
Oh, I see. And also, I wanted to ask, maybe you would clarify this for me if you can. Didn't you say when you were trying to explain, or you were reading from the paper there about how it's done, that it has to go into, it has to have like a woman's eggs?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be part of her genetics into the clone?
Well, that's an interesting point. That actually is an interesting point.
Yeah, that's what I was, so I guess you don't have an answer for that?
All right, wait a minute. Let me look at this again. It says, okay, they would inject, he could take the nuclei of eggs obtained from anonymous donors and then inject his dead son's cells into the eggs. So I guess if you take the nucleus is like the yolk of the egg, right?
I guess.
And if that becomes the embryo, I guess that's the whole thing. I don't know, maybe you may be right, actually.
I don't know,
but you may have just discovered why it won't work.
Maybe. Well, hopefully it won't, but who knows?
Or why it won't be perfect. You know, it would still probably be mostly the cloned person.
Mm.
But you're right, that's a very good point. Maybe you should be a scientist.
Somebody once said, too, if twins were involved, if twins came out or something...
Oh, God, yeah.
That they wouldn't even have the same fingerprints. Because they were going another step further. What if there was a good twin and a bad twin, and one twin committed murder, the other twin... You know what I'm saying?
I'll tell you one thing. It may not be ethical and it may not be moral, but it's going to make some great movies.
I think so, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The scary thing about this article about the clones is that the guy says that it is perfectly possible that somebody is doing it right now and just not telling us. Hi, Ann.
Hello?
Hi, you're on.
Okay. I do want to talk about cloning, but the guy that called earlier about Queen Latifah, he forgot Count Basie and Duke Ellington.
Well, I'm sure that would annoy him equally.
Oh, God. On cloning, doesn't the AMA have a panel of ethicists?
Oh, everybody has panels of ethicists, but the point of this article is that apparently this can be being done at this moment in secret. That it's that easy now.
Yeah, except I have never heard anyone who is an
ethicist. I know nobody can say that word.
Boy, I've got to work on that.
Well, maybe if you are an ethicist, you can say it, but otherwise...
Oh, okay, but you can't do it, because I have never heard statements from them. Now, I once mentioned this to my doctor, about the ethical part, and he said, yes, that's something that, must be examined. But I never have heard any statements. Have you?
No, I really haven't. I'm going to have to look into it. Thank you, dear. Every person calling sounds like they're in a laundromat. Why is that? Why does every person calling sound like they're in a laundromat with 80 machines running? Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Lynn. Nice to talk to you.
Well, you sound like you're in a car.
I'm in a car? No, I'm actually at work.
Oh, all right.
I'm a molecular biology student, so I was hoping maybe I can answer some questions.
All right, well, explain to us cloning.
Okay. First of all, one way to just take a look at these is that, in a sense, we already have clones around today. When you look at identical twins, they're genetic copies of each other, which is all clone is.
Well, yeah, but they're natural
Right.
born clones.
So one way to think of what cloning is from a practical point of view is if you have a twin and you froze one in time when they were born, and then let's say 20 and 30 years later, you unfroze them and brought them back.
So if Michael Jordan had a twin, 20 years later, he wouldn't necessarily be as good as Michael Jordan.
Well, that would creep me out, too.
Right. A couple things, though. Also, you mentioned how they age faster. That was one of the results of Dolly.
That's what I heard about Dolly, yeah.
What actually happens is you're taking DNA, the cells age. They sort of have clocks in them. So if you take a cell that's aged from an older animal and you make a baby of it, it doesn't age faster, but it's born with cells that think they've already gone through more cycles.
Well, now, what kind of problems? Wouldn't that cause problems in a human being?
That'd be terrible. And the only cells that don't go through this aging are the ones that are germ cells, which are the ones that become sperm or eggs. That's why when a baby's born, there's no problem.
So you would have babies that conceivably could have heart disease at the age of 4 or something.
They wouldn't have heart disease. They would have genetic problems eventually. They would come to a lot of things earlier. They wouldn't have heart disease because that has a different history to it. But there would be a lot of problems, so it's not like something that's just going to happen right away.
All right. Now, what about what the last caller asked, that if you take these cells from like this guy's dead son,
right,
and you implant them, you make them the nuclei of eggs from some with the donor.
Right.
Now, what about her DNA? Isn't that present in the egg? How do you get a clone that way?
What they do is they denucleate the egg first. So you take an egg, you take out its nucleus, and then you take the nucleus from the other cell and you put it into the egg.
And then nothing in the egg has any bearing, nothing that was originally in the egg?
No, the nucleus is what gives us most of the instructions. There are mitochondria, which make the energy in the cell. And those have their own little bits of DNA. And there are some genetic diseases which are carried only in the mitochondria.
Ah.
But that's very, very minute. Like for all functional perspectives, they would physically look the same, except for this aging problem.
Do you think this is a good idea?
No.
I mean, because the two people that they're talking about now are this couple whose baby died, and this molecular biologist or whatever he is, whose son died, and there seems to be people, trying to recreate their dead children.
Yeah, I mean, I can't fault them, because the truth is, people in times of distress think of all sorts of things, and that's their point of view. But I think a lot of the government agencies like the NIH have blocked any sort of work on cloning. Every issue of Science and Nature, there's usually articles talking about new panels are convening and new guidelines. The U.S. has a block on any federal funding for cloning research. So they're doing stops where they can. You can't prevent people from doing things on their own. But from a practical point of view, human cloning in theory is possible, but in practice, they do with mice now, it's not that difficult. And so you would think it's fairly easy to do with humans. The problem, of course, is there are side effects that people don't know about or just dying to learn about.
Well, now according to this article that's coming out in Wired, they claim that it's going to happen and that it could be happening now in secret. I mean, are there any diseases that could be just, suddenly brought about to mankind by clones?
No, that I don't think would happen. I mean, you got to keep in mind, all the material you end up with is the same stuff you started with. You're not adding anything new. I mean, the worry people have about taking animal organs is that you could do something like that. Also, for the ethics side of things, you made a very good point, which is, maybe people, if they can't have a baby, maybe there's a reason for it. And a lot of people have made that argument. The only problem with that is maybe you could say, and then they shouldn't have a kid if they biologically can't. The problem is, what would you say then if someone has diabetes? Should they still have a kid? If without the medication, they'd be dead before they could.
Yeah, I mean, there are a million diseases like that. I actually thought of that and didn't say it while I was talking.
Yeah, it's a dangerous path to go on, to say what people should and shouldn't do
what
for their own health.
What is it that you're working on?
Oh, unrelated to this completely. I study, it's called extracellular matrix. It's stuff that surrounds your cells.
Okay.
No ethical stuff with that at all.
Are you sure?
I hope. No, really nothing bad.
All right. Well, anything is possible.
Oh, I had a question I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
A while ago, you were getting very upset about the Terminator seeds.
Yes.
My understanding is that they're just seeds that the plant can't reproduce itself, so you have to buy the seeds new.
Yes, but there are poor farmers in other countries that can't afford that.
But so they can just use the seeds they've used to be using.
No, I think they signed an agreement with the company that they can't. It's really a very manipulative thing, and this hour is up. Thank you so much. We actually have somebody who understands clowns.
This is the most listened to talk radio station in America and the most listened to radio station on the World Wide Web. WABCRadio.com.
It's 8 o'clock.
Stick around. The one and only, the inimitable Lynn Samuels is coming up next. Have a terrific weekend and be safe, and thanks so much for your support. By the way, stay in touch. Just go to our website, MikeOnline.com, because it'll always be there. I'm Mike Gallagher. See you down the road.
What if you could have a full...
News Talk Radio 77, WABC.
New York City, USA. It's 4 o'clock. From 8...
Yeah. That's that guy that we all came to know and love on another station as Venom. And he only called Gallagher, what, like 4 times, 3 times, 2 times? I exaggerate a little bit. So we're not talking to him, and he always gets through. And since I'm a screener, too, I know it's, like, really hard to keep these idiots off the air. Oh.
USA.
It's 5 o'clock.
City, USA.
It's 7 o'clock. Be back next week, 4 to 7. And, good night. Thank you.
Now, there's even more. More Curtis and Kobe in the morning. Curtis and Kobe in the morning. Now, 5 till 10.
News Talk Radio 77, WABC.
New York City, USA.
It's 9 o'clock.